You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG. Bordy, another night of New World, dude.
Another night of New World, man. I'm excited. I like talking about this game, dude. It's fun.
Man, you know what'd be really cool, Bordy?
What?
If the game came out. And then we could play the game and talk about the game.
For some reason, I didn't think that's where that was going. But yeah,
I did go there.
I don't know what yeah, I agree, dude. I couldn't agree more. I need a main game. We talk about it all the time off air. I need something to play, man.
Dude,
like we've been dabbling.
Yeah. You know? Well, the thing about it is, man, is I can't wait until there's a time where like me and you are playing New World and then we get to get on here and talk about like the meta or whatever the heck is going to be happening in that game. It's going to be dope.
Yeah, we're about to be at 50 episodes of talking about the game that we've only been able to like really play during the preview event, you know what I mean? Or at least like showcase content during the preview event. I'm ready to be able to talk about it, dude, and do things. Yeah. Well, we still got a little ways.
Good times ahead for us in the New World community. Thanks for joining us, guys, on this episode. We got a decent show for you. We're going to talk about one of our favorite topics is combat. We're going to break down the details of the combat changes that they made recently. There are a lot here, man. We briefly went over them during our patch notes episode, last episode, but now we're going to hammer down in here like we mentioned we were going to. There's a lot of cool things here, but there are some things that, me and you kind of discussed that maybe went a step too far. So we're going to look into there. Guys, first off and foremost, if you guys listen to this on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, maybe your playlist is like Joe Rogan and then the New World to Go episode. You need to hit that subscription button over there and then go check out our YouTube channel because we're putting in a ton of work over there, building the Studio Loot YouTube channel with VODs of New World to Go, videos of New World content. If it's New World and you're a fan of New World, you should go over there. Also, guys, check out New World Fans, our website with our buddy Taken. Dedicated to New World. We're doing lots of secretive stuff right now that we can't reveal to the public, but it's going to be great. You guys are going to love it. So go check those two things out. Those are our sponsors this week, right, Bordy?
Yeah, exactly.
And we're paying ourselves we're not paying ourselves. We're doing it all for free. But I don't want to lie to our listeners. We're sponsoring our own podcast right now, which is dope. So let's, man, for the love of the game, right? All right, dude, let's hop right in here, man. So combat system. So one of the most polarizing things about New World is the combat, Bordy. And so this time around, they made a lot of sweeping changes. And so we wanted to kind of dive in here, how we think they're going to affect like the overall feel of combat. Are these changes significant enough to maybe change the entire vision of combat? And we kind of have made a podcasting episode about that, as well as another YouTube video about how their vision for combat, what their overall goal is to achieve there. So this kind of is staying in line with that, but some of these changes are definitely, I think, pretty significant here. So, Bordy, the first one we have, which I think was a major complaint from the preview event, was they removed interruptions from light and heavy attacks for all weapons. So, Bordy, what do you think about this change?
I don't know, to be honest with you. At first glance, it's like, okay, this is probably really good because this is going to prevent a lot of like hatchet spam and all of that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, do we really want to so whenever they're saying removed interrupts from light and heavy attacks for all weapons, that is meaning that if I'm casting an ability and you and I are PvPing, Red, and you hit me with a light or a heavy attack, my ability is still going to go off regardless, right? That's what that means, right?
Right.
Okay, so now that they removed those interrupts and you're going to be able to use your abilities now, coupled with the fact that you can swap weapons and use your abilities, it's going to change. That right there is a huge change. It's going to change combat a lot. And I don't know how that's going to feel in combat. that should help prevent some of the spamming, because you can get off an ability to maybe CC somebody if you're like a hammer user and your hammer's really slow, and the hatchet was superior in the preview event. But I don't know, man. It's an odd one for me, really. I don't know if that's going to be really good or not that great.
Yeah. Here's the thing that I think is like maybe low key in there. So removed interruptions from light and heavy attacks for all weapons. So that means 2 light attacks are going to both land without any sort of interruption. You have to use now your abilities to CC people, which, dude, so the light attack thing I agree with. The heavy attack thing, I don't mind a little bit of stagger with, like, something that obviously the heavy attack takes quite a bit to cast as far as time goes. So I wouldn't mind having a little bit of an interrupt from that at this point.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It seems like the heavy attack, it's very telegraphed, right? Like in New World, you can see when somebody's about to heavy attack you. It's very telegraphed. So you have time to either block or dodge roll out of the way or do something. And I feel like removing them from both is maybe a little bit too far, man. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, it helps to be able to get in there and feel the combat, and the change is significant. And I did not like the meta of like, okay, just like whoever lands the first light attack wins the entire fight. Like that's kind of not good, and that's a good change. Exactly. But we'll see, man. Maybe with the availability, the newly available skills that we have, that'll be enough to kind of break up that light attack spam, and kind of start to counter at that point, because I mean, at this point, it may just be like a light attack duel where just 2 people light attack. It still may be, I guess, where whoever lands the first light attack wins, because then that's the person that deals the most damage. But
but maybe not because of this second change here.
Yeah, true. So
yeah,
you want to read that for us?
Yeah, I can, man. So light attacks now have chains or strings of attacks that culminate in an ending attack. So after which there will be a slight delay before the chain begins again. So, and then there's a little sub note here that says, for all weapons except for the hatchet, light attacks chain together twice. The hatchets chain 3 light attacks together before resetting the chain.
Yes. So obviously this is a big part of that, breaking up that spam again from light attacks. And I think this is a great change, Bordy, honestly, just in general. Even if they didn't make those changes to the staggering of the weapons, this change would have been significant as far as helping prevent that spammy combat.
I agree, which is why I think maybe this should have been the only change, and they shouldn't have removed interrupts from light and heavy attack, because if you're chaining them together, you're going to end, and then that's going to give the other person a chance to counter. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about the first one. I do like this change a lot. And then I do think it's obviously the hatchet was by far the fastest weapon in the game during the preview event. It was the weapon that probably did the least damage per hit, but it swung so fast. That's what made it really, really, OP, and the fact that it staggered people and whatever you got kind of stun locked in those light attacks. So I think making the hatchet chain together 3 times makes sense versus all the other weapons. And I would expect to see any new like really fast weapons they add, maybe a dagger or something, would have that same chain of 3.
Yeah, and this change is probably the best one that they made, honestly.
Yeah,
because of games that seek out this sort of combat, like Dark Souls-y feel, there's always that end capping ability that maybe does more damage, but also kind of opens you up like for vulnerability. So you're taking a chance by trying to land that extra blow at the end that does more damage by opening yourself up for a counterattack or whatever. So I do like this change. It's very, very good. And it does, again, hold true to their actual vision of combat, which is supposed to be action-based and skill-based. That is a very skill-based change.
Yeah, I think this is a very positive thing. This is a step in the right direction for sure.
All right, man. So the next change they made, the number of frames for which a player is committed to their light attack and heavy attacks has been reduced, allowing players to head into their next action or ability more quickly. So here's a quick note. The patch note has been updated to accurately reflect the change made in the release. So that I guess the initial patch notes were confusing. So what we just read was true. So let's just quickly recap that before we discuss it. The number of frames for which a player is committed to their own light attack or heavy attack, so basically you're locked into your attack, has been reduced, allowing players to head into their next action or ability more quickly. So, I guess and I do remember hearing some, rumblings about like being locked into your attack for too long and not having the opportunity to, break out or block or maybe use an ability or something. So, overall, this seems like a pretty good change. Obviously, this is definitely one that you'd have to kind of fill out as far as, what the exact change is.
Yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of these are, it's hard to really get a really good feel whenever we can't actually experience it, right? Because whenever we're reading these changes on paper, they may sound good or may sound bad, but then whenever you actually go and play, it could be completely different, right? So, but I do think like the way that I read this, because the locked frames are kind of reduced, that allows you to be able to at least block. Right. So a lot of times you couldn't even block if you were in the mid swing and then somebody else was maybe doing, like, say you have a hammer. The hammer's a lot slower than the hatchet or even the sword. So you're swinging the hammer and you see somebody else doing a heavy attack to try to hit you with their sword. Well, previously you didn't have a lot of time to maybe back out and block, right? Now I think you probably will. You'll be able to block because you're not locked into that frame for as long. So you'll be able to get that block up a little faster, I think.
Right. And I think that overall, you do want, not that you want to like people like animation canceling and gaining an advantage for that, but you do want, give some extra time for your players to react in combat. That should be rewarded, right? Your ability to recognize your opponent's attacks and advances should be rewarded in some way, and this allows that reward to happen on a more frequent basis, I think. So overall, this is a good change, I think. So this is more on that sort of flavor. So adjusted input buffers so delayed actions happen much less often. So here's a clarification. Input buffers are an invisible system that allows players to start inputting their next action before their current action has completed. As an example, if you press Q to use your ability right after the right mouse button to do it, after you click the right mouse button to do a light attack, your Q ability may execute a short while after you push the button for it because your character is still completing their previous action. The input buffer allows small windows of time where a next move can be queued to keep combat moving and feeling fluid. Today's update made the time window for each input buffer shorter so that you're less likely to wind up committing to a queued action that is no longer relevant due to the changing battle conditions. So this is a lot like the change that we just talked about, where, they're kind of reducing the frequency in which, your character is locked into, a chain or of abilities or your next ability to allow you to quicker react to the instance of combat.
Yeah, which I think is fine. I mean, I think all of these changes overall are an attempt to make combat feel more fluid, which is what they say there. The input buffer allows small windows of time where a next move can be queued to keep combat moving and feeling fluid, which is kind of the goal here, I think. And before, it was sometimes a little bit clunky because you could get stuck using an ability that you may not have wanted to use because the queue time was so long, like the input buffer was so long. You press a Q mid-swing or whatever, it keeps that in your queue, and then you use the ability without having to, or without being able to change that. So I think this is fine. I think this is probably a good change. It's just one of those things that they're trying to see where they're going now, and it's at least nice to have kind of they post that combat vision thing too that we went over in a video not too long ago, and it's nice to see that they have what seems to be a very clear vision of what they're wanting for combat, and this kind of plays into that as well. I think they're trying to push it in just a more fluid, more action-based area, which is great. I think things like this input buffer, I think it's most definitely going to have to go through a few iterations before they get it correct and they get the timing down right, but it's good to see that they're trying to implement these types of things, I think.
Yeah, you don't want your combat to feel clunky and unresponsive, and these changes are only helping players feel like they're more in control on the stage of combat. So I think they're good. Obviously, like you said, they probably need some tweaking over time as more and more players kind of experience these changes. But overall, I think they're heading in a good direction with those. So here we're gonna rapid fire a couple of these, and we'll hash them out as we go. So reduce the amount of stamina damage that light attacks do versus blocking and grit attacks, and reduce the recovery time after certain abilities. So, these in general, I think all of these changes are to speed up combat a little bit to where it's more responsive, more fluid, more, player driven or player controlled. So this is the stamina damage thing is good to me because, again, we've talked several times on the episode or the podcast and on different videos on the YouTube channel about the new shield mechanics. We actually just did a video this week about them, and how those are changing. How yielding a shield now gives you more benefits, but also it comes at a cost. So this change to me is helping that benefit, right? So now your light attacks no longer do as much stamina damage to a blocker, so they can technically block more of your light attacks, which is good.
Yeah, which I think is good. On the last podcast, whenever we kind of briefly went over these, I really criticized this change quite a bit. I thought it was kind of silly because I had in my mind something completely different, though. I had read this, I think, wrong or misinterpreted what it was like. So I went back and actually watched some videos of combat of me actually fighting people that were blocking. And this makes a lot of sense because in those videos, especially, and I was using the hatchet, admittedly, all right? I was spamming the crap out of this dude blocking with his shield. Spam, spam, spam. And then he staggered whenever he ran out of stamina. It only took like 3 or 4 hits, really. And whenever you have a weapon that fast doing that much stamina damage, dude, I went right through his block really fast. It staggered him, and then I just went right into him. He had no shot at all. And so that mechanic just wasn't very good. And the dude was in all heavy armor, and he got absolutely eaten up. And the block really didn't even help anything, right? So I feel like if you're going the more tank route and you have a big you flexing, Red? Sorry, I got distracted. I looked over the video. I seen you like flexing your biceps.
I forget you could even see me, dude. I was stretching.
I'm watching you.
I'm pulling. I got a tight muscle, a trap or whatever. Wait, listen, man. Talk about New World. Don't worry about what I'm doing over here, dude.
Listen, I know you're getting like a home gym setup going on, but that doesn't mean like just because you go do biceps one day and you see a vein maybe start to poke it, that doesn't mean you can flex in video.
All right.
Dude,
okay. So here, back to New World. One of the things that I think this is the most important thing about this change, you as a blocker, you should be able to block more attacks than they can use to break through your shield, right? So if I'm sitting there holding a shield and they're light attacking me, that should be bad for them, right? That should not be rewarded for like attacking a shield. So technically that attacker should run out of stamina to the point where they wouldn't be able to attack for a minute, and then you would be able to counter.
Unless you're using but there should be block like shield breaking mechanics too, and I think there's abilities in the game that do that, right?
Heavy attacks,
and
hopefully.
like heavy attacks, I think do that, but I think there's also abilities, especially on the hammer, that are specifically for breaking a shield. But anyway, sorry, before I got distracted by your huge biceps, man, I was kind of on a roll. You messed me up. But I think overall, after going, back and looking at this, yo, dude, I think it's a good change. And one of the things I do hope they add, though, is they add the amount of stamina damage per shield type, right? Like a buckler shield
that's a good point.
should take a lot less light attacks to break through a buckler shield than one of the big, huge tower shields that just got added to the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. And any way that. And this goes back to a conversation we often have on the podcast, diversity. The more flavor they add to combat, and the more like I think actively players have to figure out as they're, entering a PvP or duel or like open world PvP, they should have to at that point assess the situation based off of their opponent. So like I see my opponent has heavy armor and a tower shield. I no longer should try to like spam light attacks to break their block. I need to be dodging and shifting around and picking my attack points. Yeah, so these are good changes, I think. Like you said, and I think it's a very good point. I would like to see the changes that how they affect each shield type. But I think in general, if you've committed to a shield and you're having to bear the weight of equipment, you're having to build your character around that shield tree, blocking should be one of your, primary combat strategies. So then, because like if I have a hatchet and I, I'm just like spamming and throwing it everywhere, like if I'm doing that against blocking opponents, that shouldn't be like the best move for me, right? I should be dodging and repositioning myself to where I can get a hit on that person's back, or try. Obviously, and this is something that I'm not sure. I remember maybe the information's out there, but holding a block should take a finite amount of stamina, but it should take stamina to hold a block, because the shield person should not technically be able to block forever either, whether they're being attacked or not.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that lands. That side of the coin lands as far as the stamina use for blocking, but
yeah, overall I think pretty decent, man. Before I was very critical of the change, but I think it's good.
Asleep over there, dude? What are you doing over there, dude? I mean,
no. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Nothing. All right, so players.
What happened?
Nothing. Players can. You were slow to the response. You know what I mean? Usually you got something to say, but this time you kind of. You dozed off a little bit.
No, man, I just talked it into the ground. I didn't have anything else to say.
All right, man. Okay, so next topic. Players can now cancel out of light and heavy attacks to begin abilities sooner, immediately after the attack's active frames. And so players now can cancel out of light and heavy attacks to dodge sooner. This is the second change. A few frames after the attack's active frames have completed. So again, they're just speeding up combat and making it more responsive, which is great, dude. I really, these changes that are thoughtful enough to reward skill versus like, again, the spammy attacks, I think I'm all for these types of changes.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we need to clarify something really quick, though. I don't think these are talking about animation canceling. And a lot of people, I think, get up in arms whenever they read this. And it says players can now consistently cancel out of light and heavy attacks to begin abilities sooner. But you got to realize there's a caveat at the end of that says immediately after the attack's active frames. So it has to be after you finish your entire animation, basically. Then you can kind of cancel out of it. So if you're sitting there like spamming your left attack or your left click, this just means you're not like locked into your left click. If you press it 10 times in a row, it's not going to execute 10 times, right? Like you can, after the active frames are over, you can do something else, even if you're spamming. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense at all?
I wasn't listening to you. I was looking at
like
chat.
Usual. But I think that it's the same thing with dodging too. It's not like you're going to be able to like in the middle of a heavy attack cancel and dodge.
Yeah, and then I feel like they added those last parts of both of those notes to make sure people didn't feel that way. Immediately after the attack's active frames. So you're still locked into that animation of attack. You can't cancel the animation. It says immediately after, as opposed to like the delay that might have occurred. Like what they're talking about, a couple of changes up, where the input lag, where like you've chained 2 or 3 abilities, or let's be honest, you're left clicking Gary. And you just left click 30 times, and now you're stuck into this chain of light attacks until the sun comes up.
Yeah.
Now you can technically cancel out of that chain of attacks, but you're still committed to your last light attack. You can't cancel the animation.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so to round up these last ones, and these are good too. Players now can cancel out of certain abilities sooner. Players can now cancel out of dodges sooner, can now cancel out of attacks to begin blocking sooner, remove the lock animation frames from blocking to allow for more free-flowing combat. So these are not promoting animation canceling. They are promoting a response in combat based off of your attacker's decision. So, you can't gain an advantage by canceling your attacks or canceling your abilities, but you can, better respond to your opponent's choices with these changes at the bottom.
Yeah, and I think one of the overwhelming kind of responses they received about combat was the fact that you were basically locked into animation so much within the combat. And all of these are attempts to try to make combat, like they say in these notes, more fluid and so that you don't feel so locked in. Like your character can move around and you're not locked in. It's not, animation canceling. I don't think it's going to be like an ESO type of situation where that game has a lot of animation canceling. It's kind of part of the game now. And you have to be good at that to do certain things in the game. I think to be a really good PvPer, you have to be good at animation canceling, which in my opinion isn't a great system. So I don't think that's what they're promoting here, though. I think this is completely different. I think these changes are good.
And I mean, I'll be the first to admit I was definitely using animation cancel for the rifle, and I understand
you were cheesing that for sure.
Hey man, no, it was in the game. It's skill. You're jealous of my abilities, but that's not like again. I don't think that's the best thing to have in a game to gain, like to be efficient at combat. You shouldn't have to animation cancel. You should, and that's bad. So. A lot of games have suffered from that again, and I feel like, and this may get me flamed, but I'm okay with it. Macros is another thing that I don't think should be in a game to be like the most efficient way that you can kind of compete or to be efficient in combat. You shouldn't have to use outside mechanics other than the way that the game's designed. So, this falls into that. Animation canceling is something that generally you would not want to be part of your meta or part of the way to perform at the highest level in the game. So I don't think they're adding that. I don't think they want that to be the case. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these changes are trying to get away from things like that and get into a more active combat full of like choices to make as an attacker and a defender.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think overall, good stuff, man. There's just a couple of things in there, like we talked about in the beginning, that were a little bit odd. That we'll have to get in there and see what happens. Maybe they went a little bit over the top on a couple of things, but overall, dude, I'm excited about where it's headed, man. It seems like they've taken a lot of player feedback and they are implementing these things. So even the people that may be a little bit upset about some of these changes and wanted the combat to stay exactly how it was, man, the majority of people, I think, or at least the majority of the feedback they received, they are directly addressing with a lot of these changes. So they're definitely listening.
Yeah, and it does say something about the character of the developers. Like they weren't like New World has very good combat as far as an MMO goes. Very I think could be one of the main features of the game in general. But the fact that they're working to perfect it should show us something. As far as their intent on success of the game. All right, dude. Well, that ties up the combat changes. Overall, I think they're good. Obviously, a lot of these we want to see in action, see how they feel against human players, against PvE PvE mobs and everything like that. But time will tell, man. All right, dude. So let's move on to the company of the week. And before we do, I want this is going to be a test for you, Bordy.
Okay.
There's a reference here to an anime, and I know you're a huge anime guy. So
not at all, but I know that. Not at all, but
that was a joke. And so I want you to guess what anime the guild symbol's from.
Naruto. I'm just kidding, dude. I know this one actually. I've seen. You did? Well,
yeah.
No. So I actually do know this, though. I have seen this logo. Like I do know a little bit about anime. I don't watch a little bit about anime. This is the Titans one, right? What's it called?
Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan. Yeah. See?
Mm-hmm.
See? Listen, man. Don't sell me short, dude. No, I didn't. Not for that. I didn't even know it was in the notes.
All right. Carry on. Promote the company.
Dude. Listen, man. Just because I didn't know it was Attack on Titan, I knew it was. Okay. All right. The company is called the Scout Regiment, man. They're an EU guild. They focused on building a tight-knit community of 50 dedicated players that share their competitive approach and mindset. They're a mixture of world-first MMO players and FPS tournament winners. Yo, dude, that might come in handy in New World with the kind of the FPS stuff. I mean, good. Get out of the Revenant because we don't need you anymore. They're an EU guild, dude. What are you going to do?
I mean, we basically play during EU hours anyways. Dude, we're dads. We don't get to play during normal hours.
True. That is true. That is true. So, mixture of world first MMO players and FPS winners. Just wanted to read that again. Tournament winners, because that, hey, dude, that's some clout right there. Hey. They are playing. They've been playing New World since early alpha. So I guess a lot of them have maybe had alpha access and been able to play. And it says they love spreadsheets a bit too much. So I'm assuming they're going to keep up with a lot of data, probably a lot of crafting data. Sounds like they're going to be a pretty hardcore guild, which sounds dope, man. It says you must be respectful, have a positive mindset, active in and out of the game within their community. They're a fun company. Say that you shouldn't get bored. The willingness to assist any member at any given moment, willingness to adapt to meet criteria for mechanics and tactics. It says their focus is controlling one or more areas constantly. Company versus company siege and open world PvP, fast character level progression, fast crafting progression. I'm sure that's where all these spreadsheets are going to come in handy at, Developing, testing new PvP tactics and mechanics. And this last one right here, Ren, listen, man. Listen, dude, this is great right here, right? It says domination. Nothing more, nothing less. Absolute domination, bro. Yo, dude, I'm in. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Man, so that's it.
They're now our enemies, man. They're not dominant. They better hope that they're not on the same server as us, dude, because we're going for world domination too.
we are, but they are an EU guild, so we can they can dominate EU, we can dominate NA, So the Scout Regiment, that's the name of the guild again. We'll make sure to link all of their information in all of the descriptions on all of the platforms where we're available.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys creating a account for your company, New World fans. And dude, I can't wait till this community is popping off, dude. We got all these companies, all these people excited about it. It's awesome to hear competitive guilds like this, that are going to be extremely dedicated to success in New World. It's going to be cool. Hopefully, there's some servers that have a large amount of these competitive guilds, and it'll be cool to see what territory control and sieges look like when people are geared to the max and prepared for battle and have strategies and stuff. It's gonna be dope, man.
It is.
All right, man. Well, that about does it for another episode of New World to Go. We appreciate you guys again sticking with us. This is episode 48, by the way. So in 2 episodes, we'll be celebrating our 50th episode. We have covered New World for almost an entire year, Bordy.
That's crazy, man. It's actually gone by quite fast, though.
It has, dude.
It's crazy.
I have a lot of excitement for the future of this game, and I can't wait to see where it takes us. So, Bordy, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah, man. Twitch.tv/BDLG. Twitter is the BDLG, and then creating a boatload of videos on YouTube.com/Studio Loot.
And I'm Redbyrd with Y. You can find me at Twitch and Twitter under the same name. Well, Twitter, I'm Redbyrd. Who cares about that? Twitter. You should go follow the Studio Loot account on Twitter. Also, go sub to our YouTube channel. We put up a lot of videos, a lot of work into that. 5 a week. 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Videos over there. Also, guys, New World fans, man, we're gonna suck that dude into a podcast episode one time, and
yes, we are.
And we're gonna embarrass him because he'll be embarrassed to be associated with us. But now he has no choice. We shout out his name on the episode all the time. You can't avoid. Everybody knows that you're at least have a relationship with us. I don't know if you consider us your friends, but we consider you our friend. So that's all that matters, all right, dude. Well, it's been a fun one. I guess we'll see you on episode 49 next week of New World to Go.